How's it going, everyone? My name is True Underdog, and today we're talking about the patch notes for Scorpion and Erron Black. While these characters might not be considered the best in the game, I do think a lot of players did find them the most frustrating to deal with online. However, in the recent patch, they did get a lot of nerfs to make them a bit easier to deal with. Now, the good news is if you main Scorpion or Erron Black, both these characters are still very good, they're just not quite as cheeky as before. So without any further ado, let's talk about the changes. I wanted to start off with Scorpion because his list is a bit shorter. So for starters, his teleport is now a high attack. Yikes, that is a very big change, and I'll go ahead and show you why right now just in case you're not quite sure. So here we go. I'm going to tell the opponent to duck, and now when I'm beyond attacking distance with my normal attacks, nothing I do can intimidate the opponent because the chain passes overhead, and it always did if you neutral blocked. However, a lot of players were afraid to do that because the opponent could just teleport and then catch you, but now even the teleport will also whiff. So the opponent after this range has nothing to really threaten you with. None of their attacks can actually reach you, which means you no longer have to worry about Scorpion players doing this. Jump back, spear, backdash, spear, and then teleport when they feel like it. You don't have to fear that anymore because the teleport will always whiff. Even if they're in the air, it's still a high attack. Despite the animation, it still will miss completely. So if the opponent has no meter, they can't even threaten you from a distance. Now do be warned, the amplified version does still come out fairly quickly. However, as long as you're paying attention, you should have plenty of time to uppercut or even go for a full punish. And a full combo punish is of course the better option, especially offline. But if you're playing online and the match is a bit laggy, then feel free to go for an uppercut or even a down 3. Since most crouching kicks in this game typically do avoid high attacks even during their active frames, so doing a down 3 or a down 4 when the opponent teleports should win every single time, even if your timing isn't that great. And the next two changes have to do with Scorpion's pokes. His down jab now recovers 1 frame later, so on whiff it takes 14 frames to recover, and on hit it's not quite as advantageous, only +9, and then on block, let's go ahead and see, it's now -4. That's very good. That means if a Scorpion player down 1s you, you can down 1 right back and beat him as long as you blocked it the first time. And the recovery on his down 4 has been increased as well. It's 4 frames slower to recover now. So its recovery is 23 frames, that's very good on whiff. Let's see how it is on hit. So on hit it is 14, so it's +14, that's still pretty darn good, but it is a bit different on block, so let's go ahead and see. So on block it's -9, so that is technically fully punishable if you're fast enough. So there's a lot of risk to doing this move now. It's still very good on hit, still has great range, but it's slower on whiff, and when it's blocked it's also more punishable, so that's all very, very good. And last but not least, we have a bug fix for Scorpion. So now the amplified follow-up on his spear will never miss, which is really good. That never actually happened to me personally, but it's nice to know your follow-up is never going to miss now when you spin the bar. It's always going to connect. And that's actually it for Scorpion. They didn't change too much about him, but this teleport change is honestly a really good change. If it was up to me, I would just make it to where you can't amplify it on block or on whiff. That is still possible, but the good news is now you can just duck whenever Scorpion's too far away for his normals to hit, and he has nothing to threaten you with. His spear will pass right over your head, and his teleport will also miss as well. And if you want to be safe, you can just do a down kick, especially a crouching 4 will likely beat everything he does with a teleport, but if you want to be a bit more risky, you can down 2 on reaction, and then riskier still, you can punish with your fastest move and get your combo going. So the good news is if you're a Scorpion main, not too much has changed. His mix-up game is still very close, he still has fantastic range on his pokes, his teleport is still great for combo extension, it's just not as good in the neutral, and you can't run away while throwing spears. So if you're an honest Scorpion player, these changes won't really affect you and you're still going to dominate online. So next up, let's talk about Erron Black. Now Erron Black had a lot more changes. So first up, his fatal blow is now 18 frames on startup instead of 10, so it's a bit slower than it was before. Now if you want my honest opinion, it's still pretty much unreactable, especially from further away, but the good news is it's not quite as good at whiff punishing anymore since it is a little bit slower. And of course keep in mind that Erron Black's fatal blow is a high attack, so you always can duck under it. But as you can see, it is noticeably slower on startup now. You have a bit more time to see it coming and duck if your reactions are really quick. Now unfortunately, if you're in the middle of a long recovering move or a string that you dialed in, it's still going to catch you, so it's still a very big threat but not quite as crazy as it was before. I think we can all agree that a 10 frame super from full screen was a bit ridiculous. And Scud Shot is also slower to recover now by about 5 more frames. And that's very nice because before a lot of Erron Black players would just use Scud Shot to get out of jail free, they just hold down block, and by the time you saw them do the Scud Shot, they could just block and you wouldn't even be able to punish them. But now it's a lot slower on block, which means if you see it, you actually do have more time to punish the opponent this time around. Now depending on how the Erron Black player spaces it, it's still going to be a bit tough to punish, but it is still slower to recover than it was before, which means punishing it is actually possible now. And the amplified version is also slower as well. It now has 5 less block stun, and what that means is the opponent recovers a little bit quicker when I do this move. So I'll do it, and as you can see, it's now minus 10 on block. That's a big deal because a lot of players, they would just amplify it and you had to deal with it, but now it's minus 10, so at the very least you can take your turn back. Even slower characters like D'Vorah, she can still do her further reaching normals and force me to block. I can't just get out of jail free and then do my fastest normal. I have to actually respect her if she blocks my amplified shot. And the travel speed has also been decreased as well. They haven't said how much, but as you can see, it's visibly a bit slower. It used to be instant, but now it actually takes a second to get to the opponent, which is good. I like that. Before you couldn't even react to it, like they'd fire it and you were hit. Now at least offline you do have time to actually react and block, which is good. And Rattlesnake's slide is also slower as well when amplified, and now takes 3 more frames to recover. So what that means is Erron Black can't move quite as quickly after throwing the acid, so even though he's only a bit slower, it is going to make certain setups a bit tougher for Erron Black, especially the immediate throw. And the acid puddle itself is also smaller as well, whether it be from the amplified slide or just throwing it out raw, the puddle is now a bit smaller, which means the throw setup is going to be a bit tougher now, I bet. So I'm going to try and keep D'Vorah in the puddle, and right there it worked. But let's try the infamous back throw. That's the actual issue a lot of players had. They would stay inside of it. So now it's much tougher to keep the opponent in the puddle after the amplified slide. So I'm going to try and space this just right and see if they stay in it. Okay, they did, but that was a bit tougher to space than before, and once again, I'm 3 frames slower after landing it, so it is still possible to keep them inside the puddle, but it's a lot tougher. Look at that, they're still outside the puddle. Whether it's from the raw toss or the amplified slide, the puddle is now a bit smaller. Not a huge change, but a pretty nice one. And this next one is actually really big, so the amplified boot drop can no longer hit opponents who are in the air. So if you spin that bar and the opponent jumps, even if it's just a short hop, it will completely avoid your gunshot, including airborne special moves, and that's going to be a very big deal, because some characters can leave the ground instantly during their special moves, and special moves can be buffered after block, which means they come out on frame 1. So against certain characters who have instant airborne special moves, the amplified boot drop is not even an option anymore, which is going to make Erron Black a lot easier to punish. And even if you don't have a special move like that, you can still learn the short hop timing and make things much tougher for Erron Black. And perhaps maybe you're not very good at doing the short hop, that's completely fine. You could just do a full jump and then do an air attack on the way down. It might not punish him every time, but at the very least Erron Black is now forced to block, which is very good. So basically this move is not quite the super villain it used to be. The regular boot drop was already annoying, but the fact that Erron Black could keep himself safe with the gunshot was just really frustrating, and now the follow-up shot isn't going to work most of the time as long as you're ready for it. And these next changes get a little bit specific, and I'm not sure if these changes were actually necessary, but now if you want to exit locked and loaded after an attack, you have to hold up. So it's just a little bit of an execution thing, and Erron Black was already pretty execution heavy, and he still has the same follow-ups, but now if you want to exit the stance, you have to hold up. Which is funny because I'm pretty sure it used to be the opposite, where if you held up, you would actually stay in the stance, but now it exits it, and that's how you extend your combos. And the timing has never been super easy to make that happen, and now it's just a little bit tougher since you have to press up if you want to exit the stance and extend your combo. So Rising Stock is now a default follow-up, whereas before it required a certain ability to be equipped, now it's just there by default. However, the option to cancel out of Rising Stock does require an enhanced locked and loaded ability, so it's actually a pretty big nerf. I'm just now reading this. So I think what that means is you can actually not cancel this move by holding up unless you're in that certain build, but let's go ahead and test that out. So if I go into his second variation, you're telling me that I can't just cancel out of that? If so, that means he lost access to one of his best combo extenders. Hopefully I'm misreading this, but let me go ahead and see. So Rising Stock, I can't. Wow, I can't cancel out of it by holding up. That's pretty crazy. So now at most I can just do gunshots. And that's still pretty darn good, don't get me wrong, but that's pretty ridiculous. So outside of that first variation, you can't even do his bread and butter combo anymore. Used to, you would just do Rising Stock after canceling a move and then keep the combo going, but now you can't do that. You can't cancel out of it. Okay, wow, yeah, so that combo route is now gone in every other variation except the first tournament one. Unless of course you're playing casual, and then just make sure to always have it equipped, because otherwise you can't even do that basic combo extension. You can't cancel out of this and then do forward 3-2 into slide anymore. It's not possible, except in that first tournament build. That's kinda crazy because one of the main goals of this update was to make Variation 2 a bit better for a lot of characters, and for Erron Black that doesn't seem to be the case. And Erron Black will also no longer adjust after the first shot. So before, if you jumped over Erron Black or rolled through him and he fired a shot, he would then turn around to face you automatically, and apparently that's no longer the case, and that's pretty crazy too. So if for whatever reason the opponent crosses Erron Black up, he no longer manually turns around while firing like this anymore, and that's kinda crazy. Rolling past Erron Black was already a very good strategy, and now it's even better, especially if he's in that gun stance. Erron Black's down 1 is also a bit weaker on hit now. It takes 5 more frames to recover, so on hit it's only plus 11, which is better than Scorpion as we saw earlier. But it's only plus 11, so it's not really as good as it was before. It takes 5 more frames to recover, so it's quite a bit slower on hit. And it also takes 1 more frame to recover on block as well, so it's -5 on block and on whiff. So that's very similar to Scorpion. It's now worse on whiff and also a bit worse on block. Not by a lot, but on hit it's now much weaker. However, his down 3 is both better and worse at the same time, so its recovery has been increased by 1 frame. So it's not quite as good on whiff. However, on hit, it has 4 more frames of hit stun. So on hit, it's now plus 11. So that's pretty good. That's pretty average. It's about the same as his down 1, I believe. So even though it's got a bit more range and it's a bit slower on startup, the hit advantage is actually the exact same. How about down 4? I'm just curious. So down 4 is plus 16. So it seems like a lot of these crouch attacks are a bit more normal between every character. No one's crouching attacks are really insane anymore on hit or on block, etc. They're all a bit more normal, which I think is a good change. And that's actually it for Erron Black. He got quite a few more nerfs than Scorpion. However, even so, I still think he's quite a good character, especially in that first variation, but man, Variation 2 just doesn't seem as viable anymore. Which is a shame because I feel like outside of YouTubers, pretty much nobody was playing that variation. Once again though, I do still think Erron Black is good for a lot of reasons. He has some very good hit confirms, some pretty solid mix-ups, some great pressure off of amplified slide. Even if it is a bit slower to recover, it's still a pretty darn good setup move. He's still a great character, just not quite as absurd as before, especially from a distance. Not to mention Scud Shot is a bit weaker, but I think that was deserved. And even though it has been nerfed, it's still pretty tough to punish, even online, depending on who you play. If the opponent spaces it correctly, let's be real, it's still going to go unpunished most of the time. So even though it is a little bit slower, it's still not a bad move in any regard. So if you do still play Erron Black, I think you're still going to have a pretty good time playing him. Thanks so much for watching everyone, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like down below. It really does help my channel out a ton. And please feel free to share this video around as well. YouTube makes it very hard to get views for Mortal Kombat 11, so I'm taking all the help I can get, and I really do appreciate it. And finally, why not keep that combo going by subscribing and ringing that bell? That way you never miss a future video. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.